Hello and welcome. This is Onscreen Offscreen. You guys are listening to episode 6, which is our episode 1, because this is our first ever traditional episode of what we wanted this podcast to be. Some topics that I wanted to kind of discuss, starting off with the easy ones, stuff that Conlon really doesn't have much input on: college football, uh, F1, and then we're going to talk some Rising Impact, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Modern Family, SEAL Team, Hato Lake, Outer Wilds, Doom 2016, She-Hulk, and Arcane Season 2, Part 1. Conlon, what do you have for us this week?
We're going to talk about Hades 2, the Olympic DLC, dropped a week or so ago. And then I've been watching One Tree Hill with my wife, and we're going to talk about why it might be the best teen show of all time. The
It's
first
not.
season of Barry, Saga, the Vengeance Saga, we'll talk about that. Dog Soldiers is an unknown B horror movie that we'll get into. And why there aren't more good werewolf shows. Wizards of Legends 2, and why anyone likes Succession.
With that being said, I'll just go ahead and get started. Like I said, Colin's not a big sports guy, so I think this topic will go over pretty quick. College football. We're entering week 11 now, and I just gotta say, this is the greatest season of college football probably ever. At least is the greatest in the last 30 years. Ever since I've been alive, this is easily the greatest season of college football.
Is
Hats
that
off
just because
to
BYU is doing so good, or why is it so high?
so the college football has been working on improving itself over the last few years. Uh, First thing they did was open up the transfer portal, which means players can move around from team to team a lot easier than they used to be able to. Uh, Basically, it makes it really easy to spread out the talent. So 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, what you would have is you would have Alabama winning every single year, every single great player wanting to win the national title. So they would go and they would sit on Alabama's bench for a year or two until they got their chance to start to make it to the NFL. But now, because you can transfer around, those talents is spreading out a lot more. It's hitting a lot more team. It's great. The second thing that changed is they opened up NIL deals. So players are now allowed to sell their name, image, and likeness, and they are allowed to sell it to the schools themselves. So college players are being paid now. I think it's a really big win. It's really hard for a lot of the non-scholarship players to play college football because they got to work full time. They got to pay for their schooling, and then they got to add practice and football and whatever else on top of it.
But wouldn't the people that make money be your head people or your first string people that are getting full rides anyway?
It depends. So, what USC had its captain of the defensive side step up and say that he is giving away his NIL money to his walk on, because the schools only have so much scholarship money that they can give out. So often athletic directors say, okay, you have 30 full rides you can give, you have 20 partials you can give, the rest of the team you have to make up. And these are like 100-player teams, right? So there's a number of players who aren't on scholarship, right? So they're paying for their school, they're paying for, they're trying to do football, they're trying to do all these stuff on top of all this kind of stuff. And even those who are on scholarship, like playing a sport at the collegiate level is a full-time job. You have practice every single day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. You have meetings that you have to be to. You have your classes you have to be to. So essentially, you took away the need for these athletes to be working in order to get by or take out ridiculous amounts of student loan. So I think it's a very, very big win. And the last thing the NCAA did was open up the 12-team championship this year. So now there's even more reason for talent to divide and conquer because it's no longer just going to be Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon. Any team has a chance. Any team can make it. Talent is diversified. I haven't heard any sports commentators talk about the fact that all of these things led up to what is easily, or not easily, but I think is easily the best season of college football. Alabama, 2 losses. Georgia, a loss. Ohio State, like all of these big brands that were supposed to go undefeated all season are hitting losses. And you have teams like BYU, SMU. Uh, I forgot who it is. There's another undefeated team. Um, you have these smaller markets showing up and showing that, hey, we should have been in this playoff picture all along. We've been neglected far too long. We've been ignored. I mean, heck, even look at the University of Utah. I think it was 10 years ago or something. They had an undefeated season and they didn't make it to the BCS.
That's ridiculous.
So I think it's really big. I think it's contributing a lot to it. I think it's all really good moves. A lot of the critiques have been like, oh, what about college football is all about the patterns, the history, the traditions, and that's going to get taken away. And the big schools are just going to get bigger because they can afford to pay their players more, etc., etc. Except the colleges still can't directly pay their players, right? They have to pay for their name, image, or likeness. They can't just say, I want to pay to have you on the team.
Hmm.
So, not a big difference, but a small one. And with 12 teams making playoffs this year, that means 12 programs have the ability to make it in. And you have 4 teams, or you have all them that look like they're going to make it fighting to get a top 4 spot because the top 4 teams all get buys in the first round. So big,
We were
big,
ta-
big thing.
we were
Kudos to
talking
the
about
NCAA.
the BYU versus Utah game, and you didn't like it, and even though you're a BYU fan. I didn't watch it. I know people were freaking out because they won and and they're still undefeated. Why didn't you like it? What about the game?
It was just a depressing game. So you had the first 2 drives from BYU where they came away with an interception and the ball was moving and it was exciting. It was fun to watch. And then you watched Utah take the ball all the way down the field and run the score up 21-6 or 21-3 or whatever it was. And then you had 3 quarters of just depressing watching BYU's offense just stumble over itself and fall on its own face and barely get down the field. And I think that after the season we've seen, BYU is the better football team, but Utah played better in that game, plain and simple. Utah had their way with it. Kudos to BYU's defense for holding them shut out. 0 points for those last 3 quarters because otherwise BYU couldn't do it. The commentators were talking about how BYU's offense was just trying to do too much. And with it being a rivalry game, I have to say kudos to the Utes fans because they were really loud the entire game. It never stopped. Kudos to them. But all of the penalties BYU was just getting on themselves, all of the stupid things that they were doing, all of the missed reads and missed positions and players not knowing where they're supposed to be or what they're supposed to be doing. And the fact that we were down to our 3rd-string center meant that Utah, top 4 defensive line in the nation, just had its way, not giving our quarterback time. So, like, I went from sitting up and very excited for the first 2 drives of the first quarter to about halftime, I was completely laying down, having completely given up on this game because it was like, yeah, we scored. We technically have a chance. But if you saw the way BYU managed their last drive heading into the half, they had a chance to go down and pull it to within 1 score. But because they couldn't stop waiting and doing substitutions late, they had to use their timeouts, get penalties, and lost it and didn't even get a chance to run their final play because they didn't do it. It was just terrible, terrible time management. They couldn't get out and spike the ball. They couldn't go out and hit their field goal. Like it was depressing to watch a team that I love do so terribly against what is a really good defense and an offense that decided to show up for the Utes. But yeah, BYU overall better team. I'm hoping next week we'll come out and show that we are. We've got a tough remaining schedule. Utah, I mean, a lot of people are really upset because there was a holding penalty that gave BYU life. I mean, they sacked their quarterback at the 1 on 4th down, but they held. So it gave BYU 10 yards and a first down to go down the field.
What did
Other
you think about
commentators
that?
have said it. It was a hold, and I get why Utah's mad. It definitely feels like that was a big part in the game because it is a big part in the game. But it's naive to say, oh, well, that was only one sided because even with that penalty, BYU still walked away with more penalty yardage in the game and more penalties called against us. Leading it into the first half, we got called for a face mask that wasn't a face mask. But I understand why the officials called it. I don't understand why they didn't review it, but they called it. That sucked. I moved on. Same thing on this side of the football. Just because it happened to be called here on the last stretch of the game within the last minute and a half, not okay. I really don't appreciate. I'm obviously not a Utah fan, but I had a lot of respect for Kyle Whittingham, the head coach, until after that game. Obviously, emotions were running high, but during the last play, when Utah was trying to return the kick to get a touchdown and win it, and doing their million laterals, their athletic director ran onto the field. So even if they had made it down the field, guess what? Utah still wouldn't have won because they would have lost because their athletic director couldn't contain himself. The comments that Utah's athletic
So it was
director
just
made
so
after.
pissed off that he went onto the field. Like, why did he go on the field?
Oh, he was so pissed off. After the game, there was an interview with University of Utah's athletic director when he said he was excited to join the Big Ten until he saw this officiating. The game was taken from us. All those kinds of comments. It ended up fining him $40,000 for the comments that he had made. Kyle Whittingham also was not very mature. He did another press release earlier today talking about how it matters how you respond in defeat. And he himself did not respond well in defeat. He threw a freaking chair.
Really?
In a press meeting, yeah. So, like, I get your emotions are running high, but just like I decided to be against Max Verstappen in Formula One, I'm now against Kyle Whittingham because how you respond does matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the respect that I had for you is now gone because you couldn't contain your emotions in what was, yes, a rivalry game, yes, a close game. And yes, it's gotta suck to be a Utes fan and feel like you utterly dominated 97% of the game. Because
Until
I
the
felt
very, very end.
utterly dominated for 97% of the game. But you still had chances to stop BYU after that call. You left our wide receiver wide open. You let us run down the clock and do exactly what we needed to do. That's football. That's what happens. Um, there's enough time between being on the field and a what do you call interview with the media that you should be able to keep your head cool. The fact that he was able to go out onto the field and give Kalani Sitake a big hug and thanks for the rivalry and whatever, and then go into an interview and throw a chair. You already demonstrated you can contain yourself. So what are you doing now? You've had even more time to cool off from this moment. Don't really respect it. Don't appreciate it. But yeah, honestly, Utah, you deserve the win, not because of the holding call, but because you played better for 97% of the game. But unfortunately, that 3% lost you the game because you couldn't keep your cool. After that call, their players couldn't keep their cool. Their coaches couldn't keep their cool. Like, it's your job as a coach. Hey, there's still a minute left on the clock. Go out and get a stop. Win. Show that you can win. So, yeah, that's why it was a really depressing game for me. I was just watching and feeling utterly humiliated because I know that BYU was better than that, better than what they showed. Um, I had my hopes really high because before the game even started, two of the other undefeated teams and higher ranked teams than BYU had lost. So I started thinking, oh man, if we can win this, we can win a rivalry game, we can get some respect. But honestly, if I were the if I was the team, a part of the team in charge of ranking for the college football playoff, I don't think I would move BYU very much because they won by 1 point, but for most of that game, they did not show they even knew how to play football. I texted my friend, hey, is BYU going to start playing football at some point? Because they weren't. They were just getting terrible calls. And not saying they're not calls, they were doing stupid stuff and getting called for it. And it was
Just stop playing the game.
just a really depressing showing for BYU. Other than the first two drives and the final drive for BYU, not much to watch or cheer for. I had a friend text me that said, I just got home from the watch party. How are you doing? And I was like, the watch party, there's still like half a quarter left. And they had said, I left early because everybody was depressed and it felt uncomfortable.
Oh man, that's damning.
Yeah. And if I was a Ute fan, I would have more to cheer for. That third string quarterback really did show up and make some highlights. Good for him. But for the second half of the first quarter or the second quarter and for the remainder of the game, they didn't really give you much to cheer for either. So it's a close game. People are talking about it being an instant classic and giving it a nickname. I'm sitting here like, oh, I'm glad we won, but man, I really wish I had something to stand up for still, other than just we came out on top out of a crappy game. We looked like two JUCO colleges out there. Nobody
That
knew how to
sucks.
play football. Um, but like I said, tough matchups the next 3 weeks. We've got Kansas coming up. We've got Houston just came out with a big win, and I can't remember the third team off the top of my head. They're 7-2 right now, so 3 tough games still. Preseason, it was looking like this is going to be the easy part of the season, but because we're having the greatest season of college football, we're having some surprises and these teams are showing up. So it's going to be an interesting end. Hoping for BYU. I really want BYU to go out and show that they deserve a playoff spot. I hope they show up to the playoffs. And I hope that they show that there's enough talent around. You're no longer gonna be able to just be Ohio State or just be Oregon or just be Michigan and get away with all of this stuff. So
What would you give BYU's chances of genuinely doing good in the playoffs?
Depends on which BYU shows up. If
Hmm.
the BYU that played Oregon State shows up, really good. I don't know if they'll win a game. I really hope that they would. But up until that point, BYU was showing that they could play offense, they could play defense, they could play special teams. They could win games on special teams. They could win games on defense. They could win games on offense. They could win through the air. They could win through running the ball. They could run through turnover, or they could win through turnovers. But this BYU that showed up against Utah is not that team.
So it's kind of
I'm
a
glad that they were.
stereotype around here that BYU, no matter how well they're ranked preseason, in the end of the season kind of always falls off and drops the ball. I don't know how true that actually is, but do you think any
So
of that is
BYU
going
was
on?
expected to be the second worst team in the Big 12 preseason.
Oh, really?
We were not ranked. We were predicted to be one of the worst teams in our conference. We were predicted to be one of the worst teams in the league. Uh,
Dang.
a lot of things have been said about the camaraderie of this team and how they band together. Jake Retzloff, the quarterback and captain, talked about how when you're in a game, offense and defense don't normally get to interact much because of the when I'm on the field, they're not on the field, and when I'm off the field, they're on the field. But he talked about how the defense rallied behind him and gave him the confidence to go into that last drive and do things right and show us what that old BYU was and what BYU should be this season, and eventually got us that win.
Hmm.
So, I mean, you never really know. I'm still rooting for them. I I hope that they show that they can play with the big boys. You have big teams like Alabama with embarrassing losses, Miami with embarrassing losses, uh, and you have BYU that's undefeated with 4 top 25 wins. Two current top 25, but throughout the season, um, 4 top 25 wins. So BYU with the more impressive resume. Utah was suspected to dominate the Big 12. Utah is now with 5 straight losses, and BYU carrying the torch. I hear a lot of things both sides in media, pro BYU and anti BYU. Neither side gives BYU any respect, so I just want BYU to get shown some respect because the pro BYU side is they feel like a team of destiny. They're carrying the torch. I love them, but they're not good enough to play with the big boys. They're not
Hmm.
against. They'd never beat a Georgia. They'd never beat an Alabama. They'd never beat these teams that BYU currently outranks. And the anti BYU side says, "Oh, they're so overrated. They can't really play." I just I want BYU to be Big 12 champs. So I want BYU to show up for the playoffs and show that they can play,
Yeah,
win
I
or
actually was
lose.
reading last night the statistic, and they said that I looked up what are the chances that BYU wins the Big 12, and they put it at 3%. 3%. That's solid. That's possible. Let's do it. Let's go. We got it. That'd be awesome.
I think we're a lot higher more recently.
That was
But
like last night. I was looking at this 3%.
yeah, a lot of teams are giving a lot of respect to Kansas and Kansas State and Iowa, but not much love going to BYU, the undefeated one. But
Hopefully they can pull it out. That'd be cool.
yeah,
That'd be cool. I
yeah,
like Josh says, I enjoy going to games. Going to games is a lot of fun. But when I'm at home, we talk about TV shows, we talk about games. If I have 3 hours to spend, I would rather spend it on even kind of a mediocre show than watching pretty much any sport on TV. But I've gone to some games with Josh. I've gone to some games with some other friends, and that's a good time. The thing that I struggle with there's a lot of things that I struggle with sports, but Kyle, I think, is a good example of this, where they just get so freaking heated, and people in the in the crowds do the exact same thing. And I'm like, it's a game. At the end of the day, it's a game. And if BYU wins, cool. If UVU wins, cool. I liked that you seem pretty objective about the way that you look at things. A lot of people act like Kyle did. That call was terrible. That call was terrible. So basically, the game sucks. Refs suck. Refs don't know how to do their job. Blah 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 blah. I hate that stuff. It drives me crazy. Well, how do you think that you are so objective when you're talking about things, and try to be so fair? And why don't other people do that? Even intelligent people, they are extremely intelligent, but then they go to a football game, and all of a sudden, any call that was against their team is the biggest bullshit that has ever been bullshit, and they lose their freaking minds. Why do you think that happens?
I would be lying to say that I was above it or not a part of that crowd. There, it's you're a part of the team. You really are. As much as you know, you're not out there on the field, and your play calling doesn't matter. The fact that I can psychically call that BYU is going to make a terrible call and call screen pass on a 3rd and 19 does not mean that I'm the coach. I understand that, but when you're at those games, particularly, you are a part of the team. They call you the crowd the 12th man, and in BYU versus Utah, the 12th man showed up. They made it impossible for BYU to call plays. They made it impossible for BYU to hear each other and communicate. They made it that contributed to why BYU was out of place and out of sync, and players in the wrong spots and not making the wrong calls and blocking the wrong person and all of the that's because of the crowd. Kudos to the crowd. Uh, but that can get a little excessive. So there was a part in the game when Utah thought that they had won the game, and their student section started chanting FBYU. What are you doing? You won, right? To your opinion, you just sacked the quarterback on the 1-yard line. Game is over. Utah just needs to kneel it out, and you've won. And you start crapping on the other team, it can get a bit excessive. It's
Do you
hard
think
not
that
to.
FBYU hit the players and made the players push harder, and that's why they were able to make those final runs?
I don't know. The student section was on the other side of the field.
Okay.
I don't know. You are a part of the team. You feel a part of the team, whether you're in the stadium or watching from home. You feel like you're a part of something bigger. It's a big distraction from daily life and daily stress. It gives you something to invest in with no physical, moral, emotional, not emotional, but mental stakes, right? No fiscal stakes, nothing. You get to invest in it. So people do, and I personally think it's a good thing. Uh, yeah, I don't love that we're telling each other to F each other. I don't love that I'm hearing stories of people who showed up to the game wearing blue and weren't given their seats that they had paid to be in.
That happened? Oh, man.
Yeah, yeah. It was a TikTok. This girl showed up. I was like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I think you're in the wrong seats. I think I paid for these," and just got ignored until she said, "I can get somebody to remove you if you're not going to acknowledge me." And the person was like, "Really?" You know, like, that is sad. That is sad that we are treating each other so poorly. It's sad that the rivalry had gotten to the point where they had to stop doing it because it was so violent and negative. But overall, I think investing in sports and having that distraction is a good thing. Like I said, I would be lying if I said that I was not one of those people. I definitely am. I go to the games, I get invested, I watch from home. I don't yell and shout as much as I would in stadium, because in stadium I feel like I can make a difference. I know at home
Mm.
I'm not, so I mostly mutter things and just get frustrated. With the BYU versus Utah games, I got real depressed watching watching BYU do it. So, I mean, it still has a great effect on me. I'm not above anybody else. Other people get into it more. Schools that, sell the alcohol, they obviously have that thing affecting their judgment as well. I'm a BYU fan. We don't have that. So kudos to us. But at the same time, we're not perfect either. So
You that was a good answer. Thanks for the answer, man. I am wondering what's the Kyle situation and him going so extreme. Do you think that they'll need to stop this rivalry again, or can they keep it going and have it be civil?
no, we're in the same conference now. We can't avoid it if we wanted
Okay.
to. Uh, we just are. Uh, I just think that both teams need to take a step back and really analyze the message that they're sending when they do those things. Because this game did not turn out in violence. There has been issues of physical violence, fan to fan, historically. There was 3 or 4 matchups between BYU and Utah when BYU was independent and Utah was with the Pac-12, and 3 of them had to take place in Provo because of the safety risks that were part of the reason that they took place in Bryce Eccles. So I'm all for rivalries. I think they're a big, important thing. They are a part of tradition for college football. I would actually, if I was magical and I could make the changes in college football that I would want to, I would add a week of football, college football. Everybody plays one more game, and it's in the middle of October, and it's called Rivalry Week.
Hmm.
And every single year, Ohio State plays Michigan, and every single year, BYU plays Utah, and Utah State plays Boise, and Army plays Navy, and it's rivalry weekend. Every team plays it. Every team plays their biggest rival, and you put it right dead center in the middle of the season. It counts. It's a game, but you just have every big rivalry week. I think it would be big for marketing and big for the schools. Um, but obviously I can't do that. But
Cool. Well, let's go on to the next thing. F1. Just tell us what's been going on. What happened with F1?
Drivers Championship is over. So sad. Thought one of my reserve drivers, because Lando Norris is not my preferred driver, but thought he had a chance to come back and take the win from Max Verstappen. It's not going to happen. Last race was really bad for most teams. Verstappen showed up. Still have a lot to race for. You have the rest of the positions to race for. You have the Constructors' Championship to race for. Unfortunately, I do believe that the Drivers' Championship is now over.
That is
Mathematically,
too
it's
bad.
not. They haven't declared Max the winner, but it would be very, very, very difficult to change that. All right,
All
I've
right.
said my piece. Why don't you jump into your first topic? What do you
Okay.
got?
Hades 2, the Olympic DLC. They just released a new level. Um, I think it's very, very well designed. They took some of the ideas that they took from so if you haven't played the game, you have a your main character is going 2 different directions to solve the situation. And one of them is down towards Hades, it's been captured, and one of them is back towards Olympus that's being overrun. And they finished the Hades side of things and they're working towards the Olympus side of things. There's still one more map that they're going to do. They took some of the ideas that they took from the last level of Hades and applied it to this new DLC level. With the character designs, the way they fight, but then they shifted them just a little bit. I like the idea. I like the gods and goddesses that they've included in this new level. And the main boss fight is very, very good. You have the tie-in of basically premonitions. And during the fight, you will see premonitions of where the action is going to go for your main bad guy, and you need to react to those premonitions before they happen. And the way that they put together the fight is really cool. I I thought it was excellent. Very well done.
Okay, I don't really have much to add to that. I have not played the new levels. Why don't you go ahead and hit your second topic? I'm more excited to talk about that.
Okay. So my wife and I have been watching teen dramas, a lot of the 2000s teen dramas, and we finished Gossip Girl, and then we got to One Tree Hill. We watched the OC, watched Buffy, watched a lot of the other ones. Um, and I was looking on Reddit, seeing what people thought was the best teen drama of all time. And I was seeing Gossip Girl a lot. Gossip Girl is good for about a season and a half, and then it falls in the toilet, and then it gets worse, and it becomes absolutely so stupid. Um, Buffy, I think, has season one is fine. Season two, three, and four are really good. Season two, three, and five are really good. Four is fine. Six and on are really not that great. One Tree Hill has some of the teen drama problems. It does. Like, it's a teen drama show. There's some things that don't make complete sense. There's plot holes, there's things like that. But I have thoroughly enjoyed 6 seasons of this show. That is mind-boggling to me. They did a really good smart thing where after high school, you have them jump a couple years to their actual age so that you're not trying to pass off these mid-20-year-old kids as college kids. They don't look like they're new college kids. They're not like that. And you get rid of a lot of the problems that these shows have where they go into the college years because somehow they have to come up with some contrived reason while they're all at the exact same college instead of moving on to different things. And it's stupid. Gossip Girl did that. And then eventually with Gossip Girl, they just forget that they're even in college. Like they just stop going to class, I guess. And in this one, you have a lot more solid reasons why they're in the exact same town. I think the characters are good. The storylines are good. The um, redemption arc with Dan is actually well done. They're not just forgiving him. They keep calling him crap, but he has this one kid who believes in him, and the adults try to listen to the kid because they care about the kid, but they still hate this guy. But the kid wants to see his grandpa so bad, so they kind of let this persistent kid push them forward to starting to sort of accept this guy who is a complete and utter douchebag for 3 seasons. We'll talk about that because obviously you disagree. I think so far, I genuinely have enjoyed 6 seasons, and I can't say that about any other teen drama ever. Tell me your thoughts.
So let's just go backwards.
Yeah.
The kid thing is a bad plot device. I think it's a bad message. People have talked
Why?
about what's that two-player game called? Co-op
It
game,
takes
really
two.
popular. It Takes Two. Okay, a lot of people hated that game
A lot of
because
people
it
love that
sends the
game.
message. Yep, but a lot of people who have divorced parents really struggle with that game because it sends the message that ultimately it's the kid's responsibility. This is the same freaking thing. Having the kid be persistent and the kid being the fix all and the kid being responsible for it is not a good message to send to people. It's just not. Kids are not fix alls. Uh, Dan did not redeem himself in any way. Uh, Most of the time, he's portrayed as pretending to change. And it really feels like part of the way through the writers went, maybe we should just actually have him change because that seems easier. we don't really know where we were going with that plot, so we're just gonna have him stay. Uh, I don't think it's genuinely enjoyable for 6 seasons. First couple of seasons are really good. Fully admit, One Tree Hill would probably be my second favorite teen drama. Uh, but there's a big swing down there. Can can you talk about the scene where Chad Michael Murray is jumping into the river? Like, how is that not just the cheesiest, worst, stupid, garbage writing ever? Everything that led up to it, the acting in it is terrible. That moment is just dumb. It's so laughable.
Where
How do you
they
get to that
crash and
point?
then they fall into the when they're driving the limo. I think it was a limo,
Yeah.
and they drive off, and then he jumps in. Okay, I didn't hate that.
I hated that scene so much. It was
Really,
terrible. Yeah. Why is Chad Michael Murray jumping in anyway? The other guy already jumped in and did a swan dive and made it look way better. Chad Michael Murray looks like a doofus doing it like hours after. Like, so stupid.
it's
I
like
thought the whole
minutes
plot was
later,
dumb.
and just and some people have more skill diving. I don't know why that's a problem. If me and you were in that same situation, I pretty much guarantee I would look way better diving than you would look diving.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not arguing that.
That it's fine that he looks stupid. That's not a big
This is a
deal.
TV show. It is
So what?
stupid. The whole scene, the whole plot, that whole season's plot is stupid. And it all led to this moment. And it gets to this moment. And you just go, ha, what an idiot. He's so stupid.
No, he jumps in and tries to save him. Like they're not going to sit there and wait for the ambulance to come.
No, they're not, but they've already drowned
No,
at that point. Like, what is he trying to accomplish by jumping in? He can't do anything. And
he
he
can
looks
get.
stupid doing it. It's terrible writing.
He
I'll
literally gets
die on
somebody
this
out
hill.
of the
It's
car.
terrible
He
writing.
literally gets somebody out of the car. The one area
Stupid.
of the 6 seasons that I haven't liked so far is the area where Haley goes off to become a singer during season two. Season two. That
Yeah, garbage plot.
storyline is kind of dumb. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of dumb. But other than that, I've liked the show.
Yeah, it's it's not good. Okay, like I said, One Tree Hill probably my number two.
What is your number
You, you
one?
you do have some good stuff at the beginning. I think it takes a big and starts sucking, and becomes laughable at how stupid, predictable teen drama it is. And then
When do you think that happens? Because I have read that after season 6 it gets pretty bad, but I haven't gotten there yet.
I think
Right
two
now,
seasons are really solid to my memory. I think season
okay.
three is kind of iffy, and after that, it kind of sucks. I'm with you. I do think that when they show the later years and they're creating the reasons for everybody to come back to the town and all that kind of stuff, it is better.
I think season
So,
3 is I think you're crazy. Season 3 and season 4 in my opinion are the best seasons of that show. You have
oh no,
the school shooter thing in season 3. That whole episode is phenomenal. Like it's great. Absolutely wonderful.
that is one of the issues with a lot of teen dramas like this is they have something serious happen in real life and they feel like they have to address it in their show and they do a terrible job.
I usually
Uh,
think that. That's why I was impressed with this episode because I actually think they did a really good job. And each
I don't
character
think
was
they did
affected
at
in
all.
very different ways. And then you have the next episode where you're dealing with the afterlife and what does the afterlife really mean? And actually, I think they did a really good job with that episode too. I think that episode's even better than the school shooting one. It's
I
a
don't think so. I just
well
disagree.
written episode.
I just disagree. So to me, the
And then season
brilliance of
4,
One
you
Tree
got the
Hill.
championship. And
The
are
brilliance
you?
of One Tree Hill and the brilliance of my favorite Friday Night Lights is they put the sports in it. We've talked about that. They put the
Yeah,
sports in it and give the sports drama in order to get the teen girls' boyfriends also invested in the show.
that's true. I'm not.
Okay,
We've talked about this. I'm not even into sports, but I freaking love the sports in this show.
okay. The reason Friday Night Lights is so much better is because it's a natural evolution of that on the male side.
What do you mean?
So in One Tree Hill, other than basketball still being important to the characters, what role and what effect does that ultimately play on the characters?
I mean, it stops being as big of a deal later on the show, but you still have what's his name? I don't know why I'm not remember his name right now. The brother. I literally just watched the show last night. Uh, Nathan. You still have Nathan who is trying to get back into the NBA, and kind of his whole story is basketball, and how can I rebuild my body and believe in myself again after being completely shut down, and believe that I actually can do something and fight for my family. And how can basketball be part of that? And what does basketball actually mean? And then you have Skills, who's teaching the little kids basketball, and he gets really serious into it, but it's little kids playing, and they're like, calm it down, it's going to be okay. And then you have the coaching situations, and how can you be a good coach? You have Q, the guy who gets shot, and him transforming his life for basketball, and basketball is an incentive. And then he reads books and he goes to school and he changes his life because he wants to play basketball, and that matters to him. Basketball is still a pretty pivotal part of the story, even later on in the show.
It plays a role most of the time, like 99% of the time, it's brushed under the rug.
It's not as
It's
big as the
oh,
earlier seasons,
Nathan is
for
really
sure.
hurting from his history in football. But now we're gonna or in basketball. Now we're gonna talk about how his relationship with the selfish little hoe bag is, because we just decided overnight that she's gonna turn into a hoe bag. Uh oh, Nathan's sad because he can't play basketball. But anyway, that's honestly how it feels to me.
Interesting. I
In
didn't feel like that.
in
It is
Friday Night
bigger
Lights,
in there.
uh, each character evolves around the natural progression of the way the sports affect them, right?
Okay.
You have Matthew Sorensen, who's like the backup QB and never thought he was going to have to play a single second other than like taking a knee or whatever, getting his chance, overcoming adversity to get that starting spot and actually earn it and show that he deserves that spot, and having that taken away from him. And there's a beautiful scene between him and Coach Taylor wherein Matthew Sorensen is breaking down and he's like, I never thought that I this was going to be a life for me, but I thought it could have paid for junior college at the very least, and now that's being taken away from me for some douchey junior or sophomore, whatever the new kid is, right? Um, you have that actually affect him throughout the series, right? And not all of it's bad, but he goes to art school and really struggles because that decision to bench him actually affected him. On the flip side, you have the starting star quarterback who gets injured in the first episode and how his injury affects him and how he deals with it moving forward. You have Coach Taylor and how it affects him going forward and the ups and downs of being a coach. Uh, you have I can't even remember his name, the cowboy kid is really good, but his parents don't really support the sport because they want him to take over the ranch after high school. You have the, drunk, no, don't care about nothing person, and his brother and their relationship and how football binds them together and how, like, all this stuff, even though less football is shown moving forward, it's still directly correlated to what actually is mattering in the show. Uh, so, like I said, One Tree Hill, not a bad show. I don't hate people for liking it at all. Um, it if I were to rank my teen dramas, it would probably go at number two. But just because I think One Tree Hill isn't quite as good as Friday Night Lights. Oh,
Fair enough, man. Friday Night Lights is still a really good show. Really good show.
yeah.
And I
I
think
can I can rewatch Friday Night Lights. I don't know if I will rewatch One Tree Hill ever again.
I would rewatch One Tree Hill. I also think I really love music and I love punk rock from this time period. And the show does a really good job of incorporating music throughout it in a way
For
that
sure.
I also really enjoy. It's just that's
It's
something
great.
that's
Yeah.
a me thing that it works for me really well.
I think what it ultimately boils down to is I think in One Tree Hill, the boys aren't as well written as in
Okay.
Friday Night Lights. I think they're not as in depth. Um, but
They definitely have the this was written by a woman thing
yeah,
for sure. I both of them kind of have that, but I could see your argument for sure.
yeah.
For sure.
All
All
right.
right, let's talk about Rising Impact.
New anime. It's on Netflix. We talked a little bit about it last week. Uh, if King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table were born in the modern era and played golf. Writing is very comparable to Sword Art Online.
Okay.
It's pretty cheesy. You don't go, wow, that was brilliantly written, but it's just enjoyable. It's a good time. I have fun with it. They teach some real golf technique and stuff, which I think is awesome as a golfer myself. Golf clubs there in the background. Uh, Yeah, it's just enjoyable. It's only one season. I recommend you watch it because it's just good. It's positive. Makes me feel good to watch it. There's no anime boobies or screaming girls in it, so
That's good.
just great. Yeah, love it
Are
when they can do that.
I'm genuinely surprised that we don't have. Oh, never mind. It is there. I didn't see the Arcane. I thought you hadn't watched it yet. We'll talk about that later. Sweet. Brooklyn Nine drops off big time. What did
Yeah,
you watch? Well, tell me about it.
I was watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine after my move. Decided to really get into it. I had never been able to finish the show, but to me, this is like your The Office. I love clips from the show. I don't really
Okay.
love the entire show, uh, but there's some really good stuff. Season 7, COVID happens in real life.
Oh,
So between season 6 and season 7, Rosa leaves the force and becomes a PI and starts being really mad about justice issues. And Jake has to deal with his guilt of being a white man.
oh man.
And so I hate that. I hate that every single cop show that was around being made at that time did that.
All of
The
them.
Rookie did it.
Yep.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine did it. It's like I'm very pro law enforcement. I have family members in law enforcement. I have a lot of respect for law enforcement. It makes me really sad that one event in American history takes the distaste for law enforcement and amplifies it by 1,000. And I hate that that had a great effect on these shows that I really like and watch a lot and had a love for the characters. Um, so yeah,
That's genuinely too bad. The Rookie, I stopped watching it because of that crap, and that's just it's too bad. I just so I'm going through HBO, and HBO has a lot of what's supposed to be the best shows of all time, and I decided to start going through them. Barry, when I looked this up on Reddit, I really like Reddit. If you guys haven't figured that out, is mentioned a lot as one of their better shows. So I decided to give it a shot, and it's a really interesting show. This guy comes back from the military and he becomes an assassin for hire, but he's just basically being an assassin for drug lords. He's very, very talented. He starts killing people. And I think he is either a psychopath or he has serious post traumatic trauma that's kind of shut down his emotions. And he gets assigned to this job to kill somebody in an acting class. So he becomes part of this acting class. And in the acting class, he has to pretend he has emotions. And while pretending to have emotions, he figures out what emotions are. And he killed somebody that everybody loves in this acting class, and he doesn't want to be the assassin anymore. And as he's doing different scenes, and some of this is a Macbeth, he's figuring out how to act different emotions and experiencing those emotions through acting. It's a super interesting concept. And he has to kill more and more people because he doesn't want to move from this place that he's kind of found a home for, but he also is scared of the emotions that he's experiencing from this new acting career. I so far really like it, and I understand why some people wouldn't, but it's just so interesting of a character analysis of this main character, Barry, that it makes me want to just keep going and going and going. There's some characters in the show that are in the acting troupe that are insanely annoying. I don't like them at all. But the main character and his progression is so fascinating, and the cops that are trying to catch this killer that killed this guy in this troupe is so interesting that it makes me want to just keep engaging with it. I like it a lot.
Hey, I'll have to add that one to my list.
And then you have Epic Vengeance Saga. For anybody who hasn't watched Epic Saga on YouTube or TikTok, it is fantastic. It's extremely well written. This guy, he leaves medical school because a medical student because he doesn't want to do medical anymore. It's kind of boring to him, and he decides to go into theater. He has a off-Broadway musical that his professor helps him get produced that he writes. It's very successful. COVID happens, and then he has this idea to create the Odyssey, and he brings a bunch of people together from the online space and starts to create this musical. There's going to be 9 segments, and they've gone through 8. It's very, very well written. The music is well done, and he's put a lot of thought behind each and every instance. This last saga, while I still think is fantastic and everyone should watch it, I didn't like quite as much because to me, it felt like this is supposed to be kind of your climax of your story. He's fighting a god, I won't say which one, and I feel like there has been more epic stuff inside of this musical. The creator really likes anime, and the idea was to make it so it was like this big anime battle. You have this anime final boss battle, and
Everything's
this,
supposed to be anime.
yeah. This is supposed to be big old daddy boss, and I didn't feel like it was as epic as, for instance, when he fights in Saga 2. You'll watch it sometime and see what you think. Anyway, Josh doesn't agree with me at all. Go ahead, Josh.
I have no problem spoiling, so if you don't like that, whatever. I don't care. In the Vengeance Saga, he fights Poseidon. And originally, I agreed with you after my first listen. I listened to it live with him. That, yeah, this was supposed to be the big climax of the overall story. And he's fighting Poseidon, and it really just doesn't feel that epic and overall drags down the saga as a whole compared to the other sagas.
That's what I thought.
I re-listening disagree. I think
Okay.
he nailed it on the head when he was talking about making it anime and over the top and ridiculous. The 600 strike thing, all the animation that went into it. all of that extra stuff. Uh, but the thing that really flipped the switch for me was somebody talking about the last moments with Poseidon.
Okay.
And it was talking about why Poseidon's screams in pain sounded so musical.
Hmm.
And it's because to Odysseus, the screams in pain sounded like music to his ears because of what Poseidon did to him. Because
That is
Poseidon
cool.
killed all of his men. Because Poseidon kept him away from his wife and kid for 20 years because of all this stuff. And the sound quality that they put into some of the most minute details, like Odysseus dropping the trident. Now, I'll be honest, if that was me, I would keep the trident. I'd be like, this is, I beat a god. I'm keeping this thing. Uh, but he drops it, and the sound of that ting on the ground is
It's very cool.
awesome. The fact that he uses a storm in a bag as a jetpack to do a 600 strike against Poseidon, anime as heck, epic as heck. You have two of my favorite songs in the entire thing. I'm Not Sorry for Loving You and Hermes' song uh, was just great. Did not expect to see Hermes twerking on a pole, but you got that. Uh, just a really, I love this whole musical. Honestly,
It's
I
fantastic.
got into a disagreement about with one of my animation friends, and she said, "Yeah, it's too bad nothing more will happen with this." I'm like, no, they're gonna finish it. They're gonna turn it into an anime. It's gonna be finished. Like there's been so much work that's already been done to it. There's so much love for it. If a network doesn't pick it up and turn it into something themselves, I find it hard to believe that the fans wouldn't continue to work on it and make it into something truly, truly finished. Uh, just look at like the stuff people do with Star Wars content. I really am very excited to see how this gets finished because I really believe it will be.
I think it's going to be great too. I mean, the fans, if you, anybody who listens to this, if you start listening to it, you're going to be an instant craze kind of fanatic for a little bit. That's what happened to me. I sent it to some friends, I sent it to some family, and all of them that have listened to it are like, man, I was supposed to do something else, but I listened to the first song. I was like, oh, that was pretty good. And I listened to the second song. I was like, huh. And then I get to the Saga 2, the part 2, which is my favorite part. And from that point, I was just hooked. And I had to listen to the whole thing. I lost track of what I was supposed to do. I didn't do homework. I didn't do anything else. I just listened to this. And you have a bunch of different people that are creating animations for the music this creator made. I completely agree with Josh. I think you're going to have animations get better and better and better, and eventually you will have full anime level animation for this. And when that happens, I hope that it explodes and everybody watches this thing because it's fantastic.
So most people already have listened to it. Uh, the Vengeance Saga was the number one album on Apple Music and Spotify for that month.
I had no idea. That's crazy.
Yep.
That's cool. I didn't know it was that big. I thought it was
It's
more
gotten
niche.
it's gotten very, very big with this latest saga. I feel like there's been a big wave of people like me who came in just before this saga. Um,
Okay.
because just like me, this was the first one I've listened to when it came out. I didn't even know about it before this last saga came out. Uh, and afterwards, you see the creator of the whole thing. I can't remember his first name, last name, Hera. Uh, talking about how he's so grateful because he's number one on the charts. He's got the number one album. He's got, so
That's
much
so
love and
cool.
respect. And it's been really great. I've been really sucked into more than just the music. He's been doing a series of showing what he sent the animators for what they were supposed to be animating. So the really funny one is when he was uh, doing his dance to show what Hermes was supposed to be doing during the
Yeah.
animation. So, like, this straight up just all encompassed my life since I heard the first song. I think him fighting the Cyclops is definitely a high point,
It's so
um,
cool.
and it's so cool, but it is so sad to me. Uh, like, honestly, so sad. I got into a discussion with a different friend, the friend that actually introduced me to this, and, what role would I play as if I were cast in Epic the Musical?
Hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, probably, like, Paulides because, like, he just makes me feel good. He's just, like, the good guy. He's not that butch guy. He's not the main character." And then he got pancaked, and I was like, "Oh, shoot. Okay, so" you know, it's so good. Uh, I if we were to talk about top musicals right now, I don't know where I would put it, because I love it so much. It's so great.
I I am surprised at how much I love it. I have listened to the whole thing 3 times, and I found out when did you tell me about this? 3 weeks
Like,
ago? A month ago?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I listened to the whole thing. It's like I don't even know how long, 2 hours, 3 hours, something like that? 3 times because I like this so much, and every single time, I'm like, "Okay, maybe that's my favorite song. No, maybe it's that one." It actually changes which one sticks in my head. Like this last time, the first Poseidon song, "Ruthlessness," is "Mercy Upon." I cannot get this song out of my head. Um, it's just
My favorite isn't
great.
gonna change. I don't think it's gonna change, but
I don't That's
everything
true.
else
My favorite
everything
doesn't
else is
change, but
movable.
everything
Yeah,
else shifts.
yeah. It's so good. I don't think there's a bad song in it. I don't think that there's a bad line in it. Like you said, the
Neither.
writer is so particular with the lyrics he chooses for these songs. Uh, I listened to I don't remember, I sent you the YouTube video, but it was analyzing the music and talked about how when gods are around or gods are speaking, you get more synth, and
That's
the
so
higher
cool.
up on the god chain you are, the more synth there is in the music. So Zeus has the most, and then Poseidon and Hera and the rest of it. I just love it, and just the stupid stuff on the outside. Like I saw a TikTok about like Hades in his office doing some paperwork when Odysseus comes by singing, and he's like, "What the," and
Yeah, I saw that too.
just the way people love this. I love it too. I've listened to it way more than 3 times. It is completely benched all of my books, all my podcasts, everything. When I've had a chance to listen to something, it's pretty much just been this until most recently when I've finally been able to put it away for a little bit. But so so stinking good. I love the Vengeance Saga. Like I said, those 2 songs in particular are amazing. The scene with Poseidon and Odysseus and the awesome line with, with my wife, it's just,
Yeah,
oh,
that line is so
dang,
good. That line is
so
so good.
good.
It
I
all
was
The line is
yeah.
so good, it almost overcame all of my problems with the anti-epicness because I was like, "That line is so epic." Like, one of the most epic lines that's ever been written for anything ever.
Yeah.
Freaking love it.
I I'm very excited for the final saga. I'm
Me
very
too.
interested in how he's gonna handle that part of the story. We're gonna see.
We're gonna see.
I'm
I
excited.
hope he can close it
I'm
out
excited.
because if he can, man, things are gonna go big. And I don't think do you think they could do an actual stage production of this?
Oh, yeah. What?
we just don't really have a lot of musicals that are just musicals anymore. But maybe I don't know. I don't know.
But all of the biggest musicals are just musicals.
What do you mean?
Honestly,
They
when
have
I'm
talking in
listening to
between.
some do, all the biggest ones don't really.
I mean, Hamilton, you have talking in between. That's kind of the biggest one on earth right now. Les Mis, you have talking in between. Uh, I can't think of a really big one that doesn't. Actually,
Lame is he is singing all the way through.
I swear it has talking in between. Is it really singing all the way through? I've literally seen this.
In the movie version, there's lots of talking. The movie version sucks. The Lion King, the top grossing, biggest musical of all time, is all music.
I'm pretty sure that one
And
has
I don't
talking
think
too,
it's
but
a.
I've never seen the stage production of that one.
I've never seen the stage production too, but I'm pretty confident it's just music. There's
Hmm.
lots with just music. I don't think there's anything stopping this from being on stage. You know, I granted, I'm new to the musical world. I've only really been into musicals for a few years. I've only watched a handful of them. You know, it's not the area of my life that's the most developed, but stage tech has come a long way. You know,
It
if
has.
you've
It
seen
has.
the Newsies, the musical on when it was on Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever, while I preferred the movie version, the stage tech is amazing. Like, what
It's
would
insane.
be the hard part about doing Epic the musical on stage?
Just the immensity of the gods, but they could totally pull that off.
I think they absolutely could.
Yeah, and then the
I'm from
ocean
Utah.
might be
I
a little
went to
hard.
see Hale Center Theater. I went and saw Christmas Carol.
Yeah,
The fact that they did the spirit of whatever his name is in that first scene so well. Holy crap. Yeah, I've got no hangups. They could absolutely do this on stage. And, you
they
know,
could.
it would be hard and they would do a lot of things, but like Hale Center Theater, again, when they did Singing in the Rain, they were dumping water on the actual stage. Like, they've
Yeah,
got
I
ways.
heard
I
about that.
have no doubt that they could do it. I, I would love to see it. It would be great. But honestly, I wouldn't want it to.
You wouldn't want it to do
Nope.
stage production?
I want Epic to be the first ever musical anime.
That would be
I want
sweet
Crunchyroll to buy it. I want Crunchyroll
to produce it and
to
make an
produce it and
actual
make it.
anime.
And I want it to be an anime. And each
That would be
saga can
sick.
be an episode.
That's a good idea.
Like, oh my gosh, that would be so awesome. Like,
I'm not.
imagine Epic the Saga if it was animated like Arcane.
That would be sick.
Oh, it would be
That would be
so great.
cool.
Amazing.
Would you do?
So
You would
yeah.
do an episode instead of just doing like a movie, a 3 hour, a longer movie.
Nope. If they do a movie, they're gonna cut content.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the sagas are so individual that there's pacing issues if you were to show them one after another. Like there's a
Interesting.
big gap in time between when Odysseus lands on the island with the Cyclops and when he leaves. There's a
That's
big gap
true.
of time between when he lands with Calypso and when he leaves. So
Yeah.
when you
Cool.
show it in a movie, you kind of lose some of that kind of. Well, this whole adventure didn't really take 3 hours, but when you structure it like a show and you realize that it's episodes, people kind of give it that benefit.
Hmm.
So yeah, just an episode per saga. Each episode would be what, like 25 minutes long or whatever it is. Those 4 songs, 4 or 5 songs. So I would love to see that. That's what I'm voting for. Ultimately, whatever ends up happening, I just want the creator of this to be successful. I want him to get the respect he deserves for writing this. I think this is way better than Hamilton and
Absolutely.
deserves a lot more respect than Hamilton. Even though when I'm listening to it, I can actually hear a lot of Hamilton in it, and I can actually hear some Dear Evan Hansen in it too. Um,
Me
there's
too.
just some moments in some songs where I can see where he pulled from that. So
Yeah, I
I
can
I
too.
s-
And
I
it's
want it to be successful
definitely inspired by Hamilton. And while Hamilton's not my favorite, it still has some good things that people can build off of, and I'm glad he's doing that.
for sure, for sure.
So let's talk about Modern Family because this is one where we 100,000 billion% agree.
Yeah. So I've been watching Modern Family. Let me be perfectly clear. I do not dislike the show.
Oh,
I don't.
okay.
I think that it does have some good moments in it. And I do think that they're like How I Met Your Mother, it actually has some things like character growth shown in it.
Hmm?
I'm not all the way through it. I don't hate the show. But how the heck did this win Best Comedy 5 years in a row? I have it pulled up. I want to go over it. So in 2010, you had Curb Your Enthusiasm, Modern Family, Glee, The Office, 30 Rock, and Nurse Jackie, all up for Best Comedy. I don't know how The Office doesn't win that. Uh,
I don't either.
I haven't seen 30 Rock, but I have seen some scenes from it. This was Modern Family season one. I'm kind of torn. Like, I didn't really, yeah. 2011, Parks and Recreation, Big Bang Theory, Modern Family, Glee, The Office, 30 Rock. This is one I have a big issue with. Parks and Recreation and Big Bang Theory are both funnier and better than Modern Family.
Completely
2012,
agree.
Big Bang Theory, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Veep, Modern Family, Girls, 30 Rock. Only one I've seen is a Big Bang Theory, and I would put it above I would put it above Modern Family. 2013, Big Bang Theory, Veep, Modern Family, Girls, 30 Rock, and Louie. Again, I would put Big Bang Theory above Modern Family. 2014, Big Bang Theory, Silicon Valley, Veep, Orange is the New Black, Louie, and Modern Family. Again, Big Bang Theory. I just,
Yeah,
I, I'm surprised Parks and Rec is not on this list more.
I am too.
Like, not even nominated. I think Parks and Rec would probably wipe the floor with all of these going through these years. Uh, So many of these I've never even heard of. Louis, Veep, Silicon Valley,
Silicon
Girls.
Valley is genuinely pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. It's a funny show. It's one that I
Yes.
would actually recommend you try because it's funny. Veep is very clever. Um, I was just looking because I was curious, and How I Met Your Mother was out during all of those years and didn't get any kind of recommendation. And the first year, the 2010, was the season that has Blitzgiving in it. That episode alone should win it, the entire thing. But you're right. The Office is better. Um, I think Big Bang Theory, it does depend a little bit on the year, but it's better. Um,
I believe this was the first 5 seasons of, or first 4 seasons of Big Bang Theory.
okay,
I
cool.
don't know for
Yeah,
sure, but I think,
it's way better. Way, 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 way better.
yeah, I'm pretty disappointed to hear that this was the time in which How I Met Your Mother was also coming out. Um, Because just
Yeah, it was just
holy
the
crap.
last
Like,
four
how does
seasons.
Modern Family come out on top of these shows?
I do not know. I just don't know. And I actually don't really love the show. I only watched one season. To be fair, I watched one season. but it was utterly fine, is how I would put it. I think it is an utterly fine show. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's good. It wasn't worth continuing going forward to me. It was just fine. And I don't think just fine should have been nearly as popular as it was.
Yeah, I would agree.
Doesn't make a
I think
whole
that's well
lot of
said.
sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm curious on which season. So it was season 4 of Big Bang Theory that would have been the first one for this. And season 4 of Big Bang Theory is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's actually one of the better
Season
seasons.
4 is one of the best seasons.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering right, that is like 2 seasons before things start to piss me off on the show. So
It kind of ebbs and flows for me. I really like it for a good segment, and then it drops down, and then I actually think it spikes back up at the end. To me.
I think it spikes back up at the end too. I think it has one of the best endings.
Me too.
The final episode is phenomenal. Such a great way to end that show. But stuff like the main character, Leonard cheating, stupid,
It is
ridiculous part of the
stupid.
show that pisses me off. The revenge cheating, stupid plot line. What
Super
they did
dumb.
with Raj was ridiculous. Like the only character I genuinely think is really good, solid throughout the entire show is Howard.
Howard and I like Bernadette throughout the entire. She changes because at first she's
Yeah,
this meek thing, and then all suddenly she's like girl bossing, which she actually does a good job with the girl bossing thing. But
yeah. There's three
it's a weird
different
change.
versions of Bernadette between her first appearance, her majority of shows, and when they made her kind of a more main character. So I don't dislike what they did with Bernadette, but like the Bernadette you see when she first shows up on screen is not the Bernadette you see the second time she shows up on screen.
No, completely
So
different person. I also really like. I can't even remember his name right now, but the comic book store owner. I think he's actually good throughout the entire show.
I don't think so.
Oh, you don't? I do.
Yeah.
I like
The
him throughout the whole show.
sickly kind of loser, everybody treats him like garbage thing. Do not appreciate it.
Interesting. Okay.
Don't really love his character.
I can see not
Like
liking it, but I think there just are people like that, unfortunately.
yeah,
There
those
are.
people usually end up committing suicide because they have no meaning in life. And like they literally took him from being this semi-confident, competent person in the first showing when he asks out Penny to hanging on death's
Blubbering loser
door, pale face, scrawny, like even the nerds think he's too nerdy, kind of treat him like
kind of guy.
garbage person. Like they definitely could have shown him a lot more respect, and they at the very least could have shown him having any reason at all to live.
Yeah,
Anyone.
because his business isn't going well. His relationships aren't going well. His supposed friends don't treat him well.
They're
Yeah,
not really his friends. Like there's
yeah.
straight up an episode where they're like, "Let's all meet back here in 9 years or whatever," and it shows him showing up and not them. Like garbage, garbage. Yeah, I
Just
don't
mean.
really like what they did with his character, especially when they showed you can be nerdy and cool with this character the first time that they show him.
But then they just revert to being nerdy and being unlovable almost.
Yeah, yeah. So
Fair. That's fair.
yeah,
All right. Next one. So Dog Soldiers. Um, I've heard about this movie for a long time. It's made by the same guy that made The Descent. And The Descent is my favorite horror movie ever. Um, it's about a group of soldiers that is just on a exercise. They're just out doing an exercise, and all of a sudden they're getting hunted by something. And at the beginning, you don't know what it is, and you find out that it's werewolves. And it has a very like Predator vibe, where you have this group of trained soldiers that are working together. You can tell that they've worked together, and they're having to survive this horrible, horrible situation. It is very B movie for sure. The werewolves are kind of laughable looking, but the movie itself is very well done. What with the low budget that they had available, they pulled the absolute most out of it that I think they could have. The set design is really well done. The camera work for the price of what they had available was very good, and they do a good job with the story. These people that you're watching feel like they've interacted with each other for a long time. They feel like friends. They feel like a troop that's done training together. They don't do a lot of stupid things. They actually cover each other's back. They stop and they move forward. They do smart choices throughout the entire show. It's one of the better werewolf movies that I've seen. And it had me thinking why there aren't that many good werewolf movies. A lot of people love
Because you only
American.
need one.
What do you mean?
Werewolf by Night.
I forgot to put that one down. That is a very good movie. Straight up.
That's the
That's it.
best one. It's great. It's phenomenal.
It is a really good one. But I want more good ones. Like I was gonna say, American Werewolf, London, Paris. People love those movies. They're decent, but that's about it. Silver Bullet was probably good when it came out, but it's laughably old. And Teen Wolf is ridiculous, but I love that movie. But it's ridiculous. This
Yeah, but
is
why would you need more
yeah,
when you have a perfect werewolf movie?
because I want all the good werewolf movies. If I have one good vampire movie, it doesn't mean I'm done with vampire movies for the rest of my life. I want good vampire movies. And there's
Well,
more
let
good
me know when
vampire
you find
movies
one.
than werewolf movies. Uh Fright Night. Fright Night is great. Great vampire movie. Fantastic.
Oh,
Let the Right One In is a wonderful vampire movie. There's a bunch of good vampire movies. There's not that many good werewolf movies. And I don't know why. I don't know if there's a history of it being like B cheese, so you get a lot of cheesy crap in werewolves. I don't know. But
it's because of
I don't know.
the uh, I forgot what they called it. The evolution of monsters. Um, so you can actually track it. It's really interesting. Each kind of generation has had its own favorite monster. And for us, it was zombies. That's why you had so many zombie things and why I Am Legend became zombies instead of vampires. It's because our generation was zombies.
Interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And
But
that's why
hmm,
all of the like vampires and werewolves and all that kind of stuff is all older. It's because they're not the monster, the popular monster to have in your show or your media or your book right now. That's
then you had the
yeah,
area where it was like Twilight and it was really popular, and you have a couple good vampire movies because vampires were bigger then. And some people wanted to make vampires that were scary instead of Twilight vampires, and you get a couple of things
yeah,
like Let the Right One In that are
yeah.
actually
But
really
that's
good.
why Gen Z is vampires,
Hmm.
and that's
Yeah,
why you
that makes
had
sense.
stuff like I can't even remember the Witch Hunter show. That's
Yeah,
actually pretty good, underrated.
that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Cool. Yeah. Now let's go to SEAL Team.
What a sad show. Oh my gosh. It started off so good. You had two really good seasons of action packed. Like, honestly, not quite as good, but on par with the Amazon Prime Chris Pratt. I forgot what that show's called.
What is that show called? Um, Terminalist.
Yeah. So, so
It was
freaking
that good.
good. Oh, yeah. I really liked season one, and season
That's
two is
insane.
pretty good. And they were dealing with such mature things like PTSD and age and the life of a soldier and what happens when you're a soldier and you only define yourself by that thing and how do you balance your life and how do your loved ones deal with the fact that you're out there putting your life on the line every single day and all that kind of stuff. And then They decide they're not really going to pursue those things. So the main character plays Booth in Bones,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, he's like the
He's
head
great.
SEAL team guy, and he's defining himself as a soldier, and he's trying to grow, and family life balance, and then his wife dies, and he has to suddenly play a bigger role in his kid's life. And between seasons, they just decide he's not gonna do that. He's just going to keep being a soldier. He's not going to give up the mantle. He's going to keep carrying on.
So dumb.
And his kids who needed more of him in their lives, oh, well, he's going to go to hockey school and she's going to go to college, even though just at the end of the season she was still in high school. Like, I had such high hopes, and like they could have shown him still being in the military and struggling with not being in the field and done such good stuff with his character and all this kind of stuff, but instead the show became about how he's old and still trying to do the things of young men. And I'm like, yeah, that's what happens when you stay in the military as an operator for so freaking long. This is boring show.
That's genuinely too bad.
Yeah,
I love that actor, and I actually am gonna watch the show because he's in it. He a lot people don't agree with me on this. I don't know why. He is the person I want to play Batman. I want him as Batman so freaking bad. He's getting a little older now, and I think if they did like The Dark Knight where he's older and they made that into a movie, I freaking want him to play that so bad. It is my dream casting for Batman, and it probably won't ever happen, but
that's because it's not a good casting for
it's
Batman.
such a
But
good casting. He would do such
I
a freaking good job.
I love him as an
Absolutely
actor.
great.
He is a great actor. He truly, truly is. He doesn't get enough respect,
No, not all.
but he's not a good Batman.
He's such a good.
He
Why
wouldn't
don't you
be a
think he's
good
a good
Batman.
Batman?
He's not the presence. He's not the
So, have you seen
Jensen
Buffy?
Ackles.
Have you
I
seen
have not
Buffy?
seen Buffy. No.
So he plays a vampire in Buffy. Um, and he's kind of it's a teen drama, so he's the main love interest and he's the vampire. And there's a part where he goes bad and he goes really, really dark and grisly. He could totally pull off Batman. He could be that dark, brooding kind of guy, and then he can be the suave billionaire. He would kill it.
I disagree. But I got my dream casting and you didn't, so ha ha ha.
Who was your dream casting?
Jensen Ackles.
Did he? I mean, he voiced Batman, but he hasn't
No, he's been
acted Batman.
officially cast as Batman.
What?
He's gonna be Batman. He's not
Okay, that
yet, but he's gonna be.
that's pretty cool. He'll do a good job with it too. For real, he
He'll
will.
do a great job. He'll do phenomenal.
He will.
He'll
That's
be
gonna be good.
the best or second best live action Batman.
I agree.
Gonna do a great job. Great,
I
great,
agree.
great job.
Yeah, he will be the best Batman until I get my dream casting and it wipes everybody else out of the water.
Except, well, that would
It
be a
totally will.
bad movie.
It would be so good. I genuinely, people watching, I want you to vote on this because if you've seen Bones, if you've seen Buffy, vote and see it and say whether you think it'd be a good Batman or a bad Batman. I want to know what you think.
I honestly don't think he would be a bad Batman, but I don't think he would be a top casting choice. But I could be wrong because I thought that Vampire Prick Boy would suck, and he did an okay job, I guess.
You did a pretty good job. You did a pretty good job. Let's see. Wizard of Legend 2. So me and Josh have been playing the first one. I've honestly had a lot of fun with it. I played the second one for I don't know, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours maybe. And it's just not as much fun. And it's not a bad game. It really isn't. The colors are great. It's still difficult. It's very similar. And I can't figure out why I just don't like it as much. Do you have any thoughts?
I think you have a preference towards the pixel art. If I
Okay.
were to predict, I think you would say that that one is the better looking game.
I actually like the
Um,
way the second look game looks better.
okay, that's interesting.
No reason
I
why
thought
I was
you'd be on the
surprised.
other side. Um, I do think that Wizard of Legend 2, when you're coming from Wizard of Legend 1, makes you feel like this isn't as dynamic or as interesting because in Wizard of Legend 1, you can hold 6 powers, and in Wizard of Legend 2, you can hold 5.
Yeah, it does make a big difference.
Yeah. So you just feel like, oh, there's not as much as I could do, and it's not as interesting. I honestly prefer the second one.
You do.
Um, I do think it has a steeper curve because the very beginning of Wizard Legend 2, you feel like you don't have any powers. In the first one, you go out there and you just have to make enough gold to go purchase your next one and so on and so forth. And in Wizard of Legend 2, it's a little bit more that you have to do. And when you do find those merchants, you usually can't afford it anyway. And in Wizard of Legend 1, you kind of have to spread out and you have to go left and you have to go right and up and down and all over. And in Wizard of Legend 2, you're kind of like, well, I've got two paths. One's going to lead to a mini boss and one is going to lead to the end. And that's pretty much it. It's
Yeah.
it's more linear. You're not running around as much. But as soon as I got to the point where I started getting more powers, I started preferring Wizard of Legend 2.
Okay. Maybe I just need to play it some more because it's something I'd love to play with you. But man, the first round, first time I went down, I beat the first boss. It took me forever to beat the first boss in the first one. The linear aspect, you're right, just doesn't feel as exploratory. You just kind of go forward. You go forward, then you fight the boss, and you get new powers because you died, and then you go forward again. I don't know. I want to like it more than I do.
Yeah, I think it's really, really hard because the first one is so, so, so good that I think that the only thing taking away from the first one is that it doesn't support multiplayer.
Me too. Which I wish they would
Yeah,
just add that. It's not even that old of a game. How old is the first one?
I don't know.
I don't know
Pretty
either.
old, probably.
I don't think it's that old. I'm curious. Wizard Legend. Let's see. Yeah, it came out in 2018. It's not that old. Like
Yeah,
it should play multiplayer without a problem. But it is an indie game. You gotta do what you gotta do.
or
All
at least
right.
have the Steam Link thing better integrated.
Yeah, for sure. Something. There's a lot of
Perhaps,
different options that they should have done something. Would have made their game
for
bigger
sure.
and better. So Kotal Lake. I actually told you about Kotal Lake. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. Um, it
Why?
I like old Shyamalan movies when Shyamalan was good before he made Avatar and ruined everything. Um, I like that old suspenseful, and it felt very much like a Shyamalan movie. You have this mystery that's unfolding. Pieces of the puzzle are starting to fit together, and I think the pieces fit really well together. I think the acting's really good. I like the ending of the puzzle. I really enjoyed it. There wasn't even very much I don't like about the movie. I really liked it. Why didn't you like it?
I didn't dislike it. It
Okay.
was fine. It was a 6 out of 10. Standouts in the show, acting. Acting was phenomenal. Cast choices, every single one of them was great. Uh, Most recognizable guy isn't even that recognizable anymore.
No, he's not. And he deserves more credit than he gets because he's a good actor.
Yeah, yeah. He just chose some bad projects to be a part of, I think.
Yeah.
But acting was great. Casting was great. The kid actors did a great job. the parents did a great job. Every single character gave you a lot of reasons to love them and a lot of reasons to not, especially with the main characters. Um, but the puzzle I don't think was that interesting or dynamic. Uh, Honestly, it felt really weird, and I predicted the ending almost like 20 minutes into it, 30 minutes into it. Um, I felt like the ending wasn't satisfying
Interesting. Okay.
because none of the characters got exposure or got closure to the story. None of them. Not a one. Um,
That's
the sister at the end was like, "Look, I know what I know that we lost the other sister in past time and whatever, but she had a good life, and so that's good. So we can be happy about that."
hmm,
Except, isn't the sister also sort of the like teacher of so and like it's what
teacher.
the
The sister
freak?
is
Like what are
also
we
the,
talking about?
but it's a foster sister. I don't actually think that they're officially related. I think it's a foster situation from what
Okay,
I
which
understood.
came first, the chicken or the egg? That's what I'm talking about.
So you have the foster sister, and then she becomes the grandma.
Exactly. So which came first, the sister or the egg?
The sister.
How did the sister come first if she was the grandma of our main
So
character?
the sister is a foster child. So she's not actually related to the family. She's just brought into the family. So the sister is born to normal parents. She becomes part of the foster situation. She gets into this, and then you have this time travel aspect, and she becomes the
But
grandma.
doesn't she become the grandmother of our main guy?
Yeah, it's the
And
mom of the main
she
guy.
and that guy and the foster mother have the other daughter.
No, the
Yes, the foster mother and the main character had the
have the other
first
daughter.
daughter. Yep.
The not the foster mother. The oh yeah, you're right. The foster. It is the foster mother because they're both.
So
No,
it's
just the one is
it's just
foster.
a weird little cycle. I'm not saying that it's wrong or that like I was just sitting there like, "Oh, what?" Like I didn't feel satisfied at the end of it. I don't
Hmm.
think that they would just be cool with finding out that she was their pseudo grandmother or actual grandmother or whatever. Uh, the fact that the stepmother saw the old boyfriend and was
The
like, "Okay,
husband person.
steal my car." Like what?
But she just kind of is like, she hasn't seen this guy in 5 years, thinks he's missing. Then all of a sudden he just pops up. Yeah, I could see somebody being like, "What
Yeah,
is
it was a
what?
lot
What
more than
is
5
that? The
years, but I
is
don't think
what?"
she would be cool with it. So
Uh,
it's just
He
I
doesn't,
feel
but he
like
doesn't steal their car. He steals one of the other people's cars. He steals just a random passerby's
no,
car.
he steals their car.
It's not their car. They're just standing there.
It's her car.
No, it's some random dude's car.
No, it's her car.
I think it was some random dude's car.
I'm pretty sure it was her car.
I had to
Anyway,
rewatch it because I think it was
all that
okay.
to be
Anyway,
said, like I feel like it's a pretty good movie with some weak points, and they didn't exactly stick the landing. That's how I view it because I feel very unsatisfied as a viewer. I don't think any character would be satisfied in the end. Him just like dying was like okay, like that's
interesting.
fine, I guess.
This is a movie that I could see working for you or not because
Yeah,
I like the ending. It doesn't. You're right. Everyone doesn't get a closure. That is totally a thing that happens in the movie. Didn't really bug me. And then you have the main guy, and he does die. And I think the him almost getting home, like he's just this far away and he doesn't get home, is was great. And then you have the rope that's tied between realities. I love that concept and that idea. And you follow the rope and you follow the path that leads. I thought that was cool. It's just it worked for me. It's
yeah.
just a movie
I
that worked.
the standout things, the two standout things, I think, is acting and casting, and the time travel aspect. I think they handled the time travel aspect extremely well.
I agree.
So many time travel things suck, but because they didn't even address how the time travel works, the show worked.
Yep.
So, if any creator out there is working or writing some time travel thing, don't even worry about explaining it. Explaining it ruins it always. Example: Endgame. Yeah, just like anyway, Cattle Lake. I was expecting a little bit more, especially coming from such a high recommendation from you. You usually are a pretty good resource when it comes to stuff. Not always, but usually pretty good. I feel like you came with this recommendation really quick. You threw it right at me when I asked for one, and I just like a little confused.
That's fair, man.
Didn't really
That's fair.
stick the landing. Not a bad movie. People, you should watch this movie. It's not like a don't watch it movie. I'm not saying that at all. Just manage your expectations. That might have been my problem. Maybe I was just expecting a little bit more from it. But hey, it wasn't the worst horror movie I've ever seen, so or suspense movie I've ever seen. It's definitely not the worst recommendation I've ever been given. So yeah.
All right. Now, Outer Wilds VR. I
Yeah.
am. I have to play this. I have to. If you missed our best games ever, it's my favorite game of all time. And VR would be insane with this. I kind of think it would make me super sick because there's times where you're flying in space and you're trying to control the ship, and the ship is like. I genuinely think it might make me throw up, but I have to try it. Have you given it a shot?
I have not I don't have my VR headset. So the thing I wanted to talk about with this,
Yeah.
you do not own a VR headset.
Nope.
Nope. You have enjoyed playing my VR headset.
Yeah.
Yet nothing, not even Half Life Alex, has motivated you to take that leap and purchase a VR headset. Currently, Outer Wilds, your all time favorite game for some reason, is has a mod that makes it VR capable. If they released an official version that supported VR, would that be enough for you to finally buy into VR?
I honestly don't think so because it makes me sick. And even games where I just stand in one place, I still kind of get a headache with playing the games. So for me, as much as I think it's really cool and I did enjoy playing it with you, I have a hard time going and spending even just $100 on something that makes me sick. No matter how cool Outer Wilds in VR would be.
Hey, I honestly expected a little bit different of an answer. Because for me, I don't get sick so long as it has teleportation movement or I'm standing still on the world. So games like Space Pirate Trainer, it doesn't make me sick. Half Life Alex says teleport, it doesn't make me sick. Any of the other ones where you use your joystick to move absolutely makes me super, super sick. But I don't know. VR is still a very cool technology.
It is.
It definitely has some room to grow. I wish it had some better implementation in some other areas. Um, but yeah, I
The
kind of expected
the one that
you would be
actually
more interested in buying into it.
made me more interested was the I don't even know what it's called, but you're shooting zombies and you're in the dark. That game that we played last time, whatever that's called. I
I don't know.
loved that game. I loved it. And that's the one that made me tempted.
Okay,
Because I
so if
also
they
didn't get
released
sick.
an
I didn't get a
official
headache.
version of Alien Isolation VR,
That'd be
If
so
that
cool.
also came out, would you buy in them?
I don't know. I don't know.
Or
If Sid would play it with me, I probably would, but it's still like a probably. I don't know. Yeah. Are you
all
missing the
right.
VR headset at all?
No, not really. I don't really
Okay.
play it much at home. I think VR is a very cool technology. It was very cool to play those games, but you kind of get a little bored of them. There's definitely room for it to be better and grow in a lot of ways. Like I wish it would have implemented the Formula 1 games better. I wish I could really feel like I was sitting in the cockpit with my, simulator steering wheel, but I could never get it to quite work well enough. Uh, I wish that, there would be more games like Half-Life Alyx, because while I sit there and I go, man, I'm fat, and if I could just play Beat Saber for half an hour every day, I would lose some weight. And that's totally true. The problem is you're playing Beat Saber for 30 minutes every day, and sometimes it's just not enough to motivate you to play it. Um, but when there's a game with a really good story, heck yeah, I would buy one of those treadmill things if that's what it took, But there's one of those games. One. Half-Life Alyx. And it's phenomenal. It's amazing. If you haven't played it, play it. Please do. It's so, so, so good. But don't buy a headset to do it. You can rent headsets. Most people know people with headsets. It's just one game, so it's probably not worth buying a whole headset for, even if you buy into the Oculus cheaper version.
I don't know if it's. I've only heard reviews, but I've heard the new Batman game is also very, very good. But that's maybe two games.
There's good VR games. There's
I
lots
mean,
of good VR
story
games.
driven, maybe
Yeah.
two, because Batman's another story driven game.
Tests. But yeah.
But anyway, not enough.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. What do we got next?
Let's
Let's
go ahead and just
do
jump into Doom.
Doom.
I
Okay.
just I just beat Doom 2016. This game is a top game for you. I know you really like the Doom games.
I do.
I finally was able to get into it and beat it. Played on the hardest difficulty it allowed me to play on. They have the top two or top one uh, locked when you're until you've beaten it. Not a big fan of that because every part of that game was difficult and fun except the boss fights. The final boss of the entire game killed me twice. Once because I tried standing under the legs as a means to attack it, and I got killed really fast doing that. The second time I was trying to fight it and using the pillars as a shield. And the third time I figured out you're supposed to jump on the pillars, and then it was cakewalk. So why do you think this game gets so much love when I feel like those supposed most satisfying moments, boss fights, are so, so weak in this game?
Number one is because it kind of resurrected a dead genre. The boomer shooter thing really was not popular anymore. And then you have this Doom game, which is part of that original boomer shooter time period. And everybody's like, I'll give it a try. It's Doom. Doom has a really recognizable name. And the fights in between the boss fights are so much fun. And you're picking up health packs, you're picking up ammo, you're switching guns, you're shooting over here, you're running over here, you're jumping over here. And it just has that explosive go, 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 go aspect to it that people like. People like that kind of gameplay loop where you're constantly moving, you're constantly shooting. There's not this downtime. It's like ah, perfect for our generation that has no focus. You can just keep going. There's no these slow moments. You just have to keep focused. You have to keep going. You have to, otherwise you die. So you have this game that comes back and it resurrects an entire genre. You get Wolfenstein again. You get a lot of different small time shooters that are pretty popular in the indie community, and they pop up because of this game because it's a lot of fun. And then you have Doom Eternal that upgrades on a lot of the aspects of this game and makes it more technical and fixes some of the problems, continues the progression. And then you have the next Doom that's coming out that looks super sick, and I hope that they're able to continue going forward. I think it just hit the prime, it hit a demographic that was missing this aspect at a good time, if that makes sense.
It does. I have to admit that those in between parts are really fun. It makes you feel like a real badass for sure. Music, I think, is a little bit overrated.
Oh,
Uh,
I love the music in that. I love it.
it's very good. It's very good. But people talk about it being a top game score, and it's actually really repetitive. But to me, those those boss fights where you really can shine and it kind of falls flat, it's a pretty big hurdle to get past. So
I still enjoy the boss fights, but the fights in between in that game are better for sure.
I was very bored during the boss fights. They
Okay.
were not a struggle at all.
Do they have to be a struggle to be fun? Because they're still that fast
Yes.
paced. Let's
Yeah,
go. Okay. Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
It has to be a challenge. If it's super easy, why even do it? Why is that not just a cutscene?
Interesting. I still had fun with it,
Like,
but I get where you're coming from. Makes sense.
what are your most satisfying gaming moments? Because for me, the top one, number one, most satisfying gaming moment of all time is when I beat Orphan of Kos.
Yeah, me too. By far.
Yeah,
But I
and
still
not
enjoy,
every boss needs to be great and challenging and interesting and all that kind of stuff.
like,
But you
for
need
example,
one.
Portal is a fantastic game, and so is Portal 2. But the end boss where you're fighting whatever
Gladys.
Gladys, neither of those are hard. They're just not. They're not hard. But I don't
I
think
think
it
they're
makes it
just
to the
hard
game.
enough.
Okay. Maybe that's
You still have to problem solve and you still have to puzzle your way out of it. It's not point and shoot. Barely have to move.
just shoot until the thing is dead. I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of looked at it the same way. It's pretty easy. You just go through the formula. Formula's not easy to figure out or not hard to figure out, and you just beat the boss. But it's still fun. That's the way I
Yeah.
looked at it.
I think bosses are really important. We just played through Revenant, Remnant 2,
Yeah,
and the
and
cube
some of those
boss.
are
Both of us were like, holy crap, this is
super cool.
amazing.
It is
Right?
such a cool boss.
I
Legitimately,
think
I think it can elevate the game a lot. And Remnant 2's bosses definitely for sure elevate that game. Um, but it can also just be fine. And for me, Doom is just fine. There's not the only time that it really takes away from me is if the boss is frustratingly hard just to be frustratingly hard. It's not a matter of getting better, it's just annoying. Or if they're bullet sponges, which maybe you felt this way with Doom, but where I'm just doing a ridiculous amount of damage and I'm fighting this boss for 45 minutes and it's the exact same thing for 45 minutes. With Doom, I felt like bosses are pretty short. You go, you shoot them, you kill all the extra bad guys. It doesn't take that long. It didn't annoy me. It's not a boss that I'm just grinding at forever because I'm grinding at it. Does that make sense?
it does make sense. I agree with you. When bosses are just bullet sponges, and some of the Remnant 2 bosses are that way, honestly.
That's true.
But the problem is not all of them are. and you have at least one shining moment. And Doom's whole core to me, the thing that made it so good and so enjoyable to play through, was the feeling like a badass. And I just don't feel like a badass while metal music is playing and I'm sitting there going step to the left, step to the right. Like I'm not doing anything. I don't feel like a badass in this moment. Um, and like all all I would ask for to make this Doom like a 8 out of 10 would to be to have one decent boss fight.
Just one.
Just one. Just one.
Hmm.
If it was the last one, that would make the biggest difference because that's the one that actually has some story element to it. And it's not just a boss that's there to have a boss that's there. But none of them were good.
They were
Not
all just
not
kind of the same thing.
one. Yeah, it was so I just have to get through this.
And then you're getting to the last boss and you're like, oh, not again, right?
Well, I got to the last boss and I was like, okay, this one's different. It's got the legs, it's got, it's doing different things than the previous bosses. It's no longer just shoot it. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna go hide underneath it. Maybe that's the shred. Oh no, wait, I'm dead. Okay, maybe I need to hide behind these pillars when it's doing nope, that didn't work. I'm dead. And then okay. Oh, I can jump on the pillar. Okay. Well,
Okay.
that was over. All right. And I was expecting more Doom. I didn't expect it to end there. And then they started
That's
rolling
what you
credits, and
thought.
I was like,
You're like, oh,
okay, that was it.
okay.
That's how you're ending this game. Like when you're doing the arenas leading up to that final boss battle, when you have to do the 3 and you have to unlock the thing with the
Mhm.
yeah, those were great fights. Holy crap! I was hanging on by a thread. I was barely holding on. I was barely getting through. I was having so much fun doing that. And then, okay, here we go. We're going in. You can see it from the drop. Okay, here comes boss fight. Here we go. Oh, okay. Oh, that was the game. That was it. You're rolling credits. By the way, that AI was obviously the bad guy the second you meet him.
Yep. Who could have guessed?
Yeah, it's just it feels like such a weak point to try and get people interested in your next game. Cause like leading up to the final battle, I installed Doom Eternal because I was excited to play it. And after the final boss, I did not jump into Doom Eternal because I was just like, okay, I'll get to it eventually, I guess. I don't know. It's a 7 out of 10. It's a pretty good game. It's it just fell so flat on those boss fights.
Do you think you'll play Eternal before I can't hear whatever the new one comes out? I can't remember what it's called.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Like honestly, I was genuinely very excited to play Doom Eternal because I started getting into Doom. And what? Just- Why did you do such a crappy job on the bosses?
Have you played Eternal yet? At all?
I played it once. I got the second level, I think. Um, when I was playing it at the time, it was probably the monitor I was playing on, but I remember I was going around this like really skinny circle,
Mhm.
climbing my way up, and I just got really dizzy and motion sick. Uh,
Oh.
Usually games don't do that. Mirror's Edge makes me sick to play. A couple of other games can at times make me sick, but don't always. But Doom Eternal was doing that to me. And Doom 2016, I don't know why I didn't originally get into it, but as I didn't. And getting this headset and getting the spatial audio all set up and equalized correctly definitely made a big difference in the enjoyment of the game.
Well,
Um, but yeah,
I think you'll like. I think you in particular will like Eternal better if you can
well,
get sick
Doom
with it.
Eternal is just supposed to be better, right? It's just supposed to be Doom 2016, but better.
Yeah, I think
So
you will like it a lot better. But you'll whenever you play it, we can talk about it.
yeah,
Um, well, the next thing, let's talk about my Succession. Have you heard of this show at all?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Okay. It got all of the awards. People love this show. They talked about it like it was the return of HBO, greatest thing ever. And I just don't get it. I like some shows where you just have bad people all around. I can enjoy those kind of shows. In fact, Barry is kind of one of those shows in a sort of a way. Severance or Succession has no enjoyable characters. And they're not like deep, no enjoyable characters. They are very, very cookie cutter characters that are not enjoyable. They all argue with each other, and the show is just them arguing and trying to get their siblings money. Like that's the whole show. It's stupid. Um, and I genuinely, truly do not understand why this show is loved so much. When I was looking at top HBO shows on Reddit, it got brought up again and again and again. It got so many awards. When I looked up TV shows with the best writing, it gets mentioned a lot. The characters are two dimensional. It's a
Doesn't
stupid
so
show.
does Severance, and you also don't like that one.
So Severance, the reason that I was bringing this up is I think people have this because the ending of season one for Succession was honestly really good, super interesting. And then I got in the first episode of season two, and we were back to basically the same crap with the same two-dimensional characters. And I just said, screw it, I don't care, I'm done. I think people, we know this with psychology. We know that people, if you end things really, really well, they will look at the entire experience that they had better. So maybe that's what's going on with Succession is that it has a really good ending. So everybody's like, oh, season one, fantastic. No, it's not. It sucks. And then you've got Severance. And I think Severance is a good show overall. It's just damn slow. Um, but the end of Severance, the last two episodes of Severance are insane and very, very, very good. So people think about the entire show as being that quality when really it's not. And that's the only thing that I can think of that makes me possibly understand why people like Succession. I don't recommend watching it. I don't understand why people like it. That's kind of all I have to say about it.
Okay,
And
fair
then
enough.
we'll do Plague Tale, and we can end with Arcane because I'm excited to hear what you think. Um, Plague Tale 2 is a very mixed bag to me. I loved the first game, and it's weird that it took me so long to play the second game. There's a lot of slow parts in it where I feel like they kind of expanded the game just to expand the game. And my biggest problem with it, and what makes it so I'd probably lean towards more a negative review, even though there are aspects of it that I really like, the entire game, I am like, we should just kill the brother. He should die. We should kill him. And then I even tried to shoot him with a rock, and they wouldn't let me kill him. But I was like, all of these problems and all of these people that are dying wouldn't be dead if we just killed the brother. And then at the end of the game, you kill the brother. And I'm like, why didn't we do this 6 hours ago? That's all I wanted to do was kill the stupid brother. Um, and part of it's like, well, you made me want to kill the brother, so maybe you were successful as a game. And part of me was like, you wasted my time because if I had the choice, I would have killed the brother the first quarter of this game.
Do
And
you
definitely
think it
by
would
the
have been
half point.
better if that was an option? Like you could choose to kill the brother, or you could choose to continue on trying to save him.
I think that would have been interesting. I also think it would have been interesting if you could make that choice towards the end of the game. If there was an ability to save the brother at the end of the game, I think that could have saved it, maybe, but you don't have any choice. You're just going down this linear storyline where the game tries to make you feel like you have the choice. But during the entire game, I was like, I don't care about talking to these village people. They're probably going to get eaten by rats, and they do. So I was just like, where's this next thing that I need to go along with the story? I just want to go along with the story. Stop making me do all this other bullshit. And at the end of the game, if I had the ability of doing something else besides just killing the brother, it would be more enticing to me. But all I can do is hit him in the face with a rock. Ah,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
okay. Now let's get to the exciting
Sorry,
thing.
you didn't love it as much.
Me too.
Oh, we got one
I
other thing I want to talk about first.
oh what?
She-Hulk got renewed for season 2.
Oh yeah,
I
I didn't read
feel
that.
like Marvel has had a history of actually listening to their fans quite often. I know that Phase 4, Phase 5, whatever the heck they're on right now, really has not been received super well. But with like Moon Knight getting a season 2, I felt like they were still showing that they are listening to their fans. She-Hulk season 2, do you think this is a sign that Marvel has really lost touch with their fans? Because I feel like nobody liked this show.
Um, Feminists who are 35 and unmarried with cats maybe liked the show, but it didn't make good money. I think there is a political agenda at Marvel and at Disney. I think you're kind of crazy if you don't see that. And this show fits into that political agenda extremely well, unfortunately. And so Marvel decides to go with the agenda because that's what Marvel does. And they spent a lot of money on the show. I know this was one of their most expensive shows. And sometimes they'll get a second season just because of how much money you spend. Like, people didn't really like the first season of the Lord of the Rings show, Rings of Power, but they spent so much freaking money on that first season that there wasn't any way that they weren't going to make a season 2. And it could be kind of a situation like that too. I was extremely disappointed in this show. I read comics as a kid, and my favorite comic actually was She-Hulk. I loved She-Hulk, the comic. And they got rid of her wit, they got rid of her charm, they got rid of kind of everything that made the character enjoyable and just left it with a pandering, small, stupid story, bad actress, cringy, like twerking garbage. And then they got rid of all the things that made She-Hulk great. What do you think?
Okay, but that didn't really answer my question.
Oh,
Like,
about being lost touch with their audience? I
yeah,
think
because literally, I know people on the left were, really defensive of it, and some feminists were really defensive of it, and the main actress was really defensive of it. But at the end of the day, your dollar speaks, and they lost a lot of dollars on this, a lot of dollars on this show. And like I said, they do have a history of actually listening to their fans. So have they lost touch with their fandom, or is there something else going on with this renewal?
I think that they have a political agenda and they put that above a lot of things. You see that with the most with the last section of Marvel that's come out. Um, where they keep putting these political messages in, even though people keep saying, we don't like this, we don't like this. Yes, there's a small section of people that love it, but it's small and it's hitting their revenue massively. People aren't going out to the movies, they aren't watching a lot of these shows. And it's because of the messaging, and people keep telling them that it's because of the messaging. If they really cared about the fan base, they would put great entertainment and good characters over messaging, and they're just not doing that.
Do you think there's at all a chance that this is them showing that they are listening to the fans? Are they going to completely change the messaging? They're not going to have it in season two? They're going to
Uh,
bring back all of those things about the character that you love?
I don't know if they got rid of the director and the producer and some of the writers. I think to not have the messaging in there because, in particular, She Hulk has so much of it. You would have to get rid of those people because they're the ones that wrote in the messaging. They're the ones that wanted the messaging. They were hired partly to put in the messaging. And unless you get rid of those people, I don't think so.
Okay. Fair enough. I am honestly shocked that there's a season two renewal of this. I'm surprised that Moon Knight got a season two. It really felt like that was just going to be a one and done season. But I guess we'll see.
I was
We'll
surprised
see.
about Moon Knight too. I think that's a better example of maybe Marvel listening to their fans because I think Moon Knight was planned to be one season, but people like Moon Knight because Moon Knight didn't have a lot of the messaging. It was just a pretty good show. Um, if Velma can get a season two, nothing shocks me they can get a season two. Velma is one of the worst trash shows that I've ever seen in my entire life. How do you?
But Velma didn't lose
Ugh,
all the dollars.
yeah, it did. It didn't make good money at all. People did not like
It
Velma.
nothing like what Marvel invested in She-Hulk,
That's true. It's a cartoon.
right?
You're not going to Marvel. You're not going to have a Marvel budget on a cartoon.
No.
That's true. That's true.
So like yeah, people didn't like it, but it didn't lose as many dollars. And there were a number of people looking forward to it coming out. And there are some people that I hear find good in it. I have not heard
And
anybody find anything good in She Hulk. I have only ever heard people complaining about it.
I'm curious. I'm gonna look it up right now, just IMBD score, because I bet She-Hulk is higher than Velma.
I don't care about IMDb scores, but okay.
Uh, I'm just curious. 5.2 for that. Let's see. Velma, I'm pretty sure basically everyone just hated the show. Yeah, it has a 1.6. No one likes this terrible show. You don't ruin Scooby Doo. Scooby Doo is sacred.
Fair enough. Let's go ahead and transition. Have you
Okay.
seen Arcane Season 2, Part 1 yet?
No, I
Okay.
haven't.
That is very unfortunate.
Yeah. And I don't want spoilers. And I know you want to talk spoilers, but what did you think?
9 out of 10.
Okay. That's okay.
I only have one critique of it, and honestly, it is a very simple fix.
Okay.
And that's all I've
Interesting.
got. It's really enjoyable. I enjoyed it a whole heck of a lot. I am very thankful that the inferences I had made about the trailer were wrong. I am very excited for season 2, part 2.
Do you think with where it currently is, you have faith that they can end the show in a satisfying way?
Absolutely. I think that the concern is things getting out of hand.
Okay. Interesting.
So
Interesting.
I'll tell you this. Lauren and I were talking about it. She has predicted that they are going to bring Silco back for part 2.
Interesting.
He is wrong. It is not going to happen.
Okay.
There's no way. But to me, what she is picking up on, I think they're going to just keep introducing more League of Legends characters into the plot. And that's where I think that they might get out of hand. So, League of Legends has 169 different characters.
Wow.
8 are in Arcane.
Yeah, you have a lot you could pull from with that.
You have a lot that you can pull from. They inferenced, or they led you towards a specific group of champions in the lore. But that narrows it down to like 20 characters that we haven't seen before. So if part 2 and part 3 is just introducing more and more and more and more and more characters, that's a lot of screen time where you're introducing more characters and not concluding the story.
Do you know why they chose to just do 2 seasons? I mean, anybody that watches Arcane, besides my wife for some reason, likes Arcane. Anyone that I've ever talked to. It's just I was shocked that they were just doing 2 seasons. Like, genuinely super surprised. Do you think that that's a trick? Are we being tricked? Do you think it's actually gonna be 2 seasons?
I think it's going to be 2 seasons.
Why do you think they decided to do that? It's still surprising to me.
It's not
Honestly.
surprising to me at all.
Okay, why?
Not at all. How much did Arcane cost to make?
No idea. No clue.
It just set a record for being the most expensive animated piece of media in the history of ever.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Let's get the exact number. $250 million
Holy crap.
were invested into the making of Arcane. Sorry. They spent $250 million to promote Arcane, not to make Arcane. So just in advertising, $250 million invested there. And while I think that Arcane is a top show of all time, and I think a lot of people are really enjoying it, that's a real big investment from Netflix. And I think they are making the correct call to say, we're happy to keep making it so long as we keep getting those returns. But we're not going to keep getting those returns if you're just going to keep making the show to keep making the show.
It has to be that
They
level of
came to
quality.
us with a 2-season plot. We love this 2-season plot. We're going to proceed with this 2-season plot. You're getting a blank check for this 2-season plot. But we're not just going to extend it to extend it. And I think that's 100% the right call to make. I think so many shows find success, especially in anime and animation. And they keep making more and keep making more and keep making more until they've spent their last dollar.
And this isn't like a Steven Universe or shows like that are good shows. How to Train Your Dragon, the TV show, where the animation is quite a bit simpler. This Arcane requires significantly more to be done right.
Yeah.
Do you think if, let's say, season 2 is even 80% as good as season 1, and people love it, gangbusters, 9 out of 10 rating, ends fantastically, and Netflix goes, okay, everyone loves this show, blank check season 3, do you think it happens?
No.
No. Okay.
I think the fact that they've already said they're not doing a season 3 is really strong. I think the most that we could hope for or want would be another series.
Okay.
Right? I really truly hope that they say this is our contained story. We're going to tell our story. That's going to be that. But this is a whole big world. We have 200 characters to choose from. We've only
Let's
used
make
8
another
so
story.
far. Let's make another story. Let's tell a new story. Let's tell something else going on. We love working together. We love our writers. We love our animators, whatever it is. I think that is a good direction to go in. If they said Arcane season 2, that's it. But hey, that doesn't mean that's the end of the League of Legends show. That doesn't mean it's the end of League of Legends movies or whatever. Like, I'm I'm okay if they say we're gonna do a spin-off series based on this new character that we introduced in Arcane season 2 part 3 because he didn't really get enough showtime, right? So we're gonna do a 1 season series explaining his backstory, where he came from, and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I would watch that. Sure, so long as I'm interested in that character that they introduce. Uh, but yeah, like I said, I only have one complaint, one knock against it right now. We're 3 of 9 episodes in. My complaint is in the first season at the very, or not the first season, the
First
first
episode.
episode at the very beginning of it. And it is such a little nitpicky thing. Like it's just enough to make it a not 10 out of 10. Because I do think it has room to grow. And like I said, it could be fixed so easily. So easily. So
Well, now,
I'll
well,
tell you, because it doesn't give anything away.
okay.
You go straight from the theme song of the show into another song part of the plot,
Okay.
and there's no transition. So
Hmm.
I'm just like, okay,
Did
what?
they keep the same Imagine Dragons song?
Yeah, yeah,
Did they keep the same opening animation or did they change it?
they changed it.
Okay.
Yep. So we're dealing with the fallout of Jinx's nuke, bomb, missile, whatever you want to call it. And all they would have to do to fix it is have a simple screen with some writing on it that said 13 lives lost in
Hmm.
the explosion. That's it. I think if you just gave that and you allowed us to transition into the next scene, because the opening scene of episode 1 is them directly dealing with the fallout of the blast. Then you have a theme song, which is Imagine Dragons, peppy, you know, pop
What if
rock
everyone
stuff.
didn't die though? So you say 13 lives lost. What? I mean, do we know for a fact that they're all dead?
So not all of them are dead. So
Okay.
it shows you at the very beginning, right? Very beginning, Jace is alive, right? Jace survived the blast. He's dealing with the fallout, right? Then you deal with intro song, which is Imagine Dragons, pop rock. And then you have the funeral songs.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see
And
what you're
I'm
saying.
just like, just a scene or a little splash
Just a
screen that
little
says like
small
13
breathing
lives
piece.
lost or only one lost or whatever it is. Whatever you're doing with the song, give us that information to get us back into the show away from Imagine Dragons. That is my
Like,
only
okay.
complaint about the 3 episodes. The rest of it is brilliant. It's amazing. They went in some new directions with the animation. That's so great. It's so good. Uh,
Let's see.
the funeral scene itself is fantastic. It's beautiful. The direction that they took with it was phenomenal. I love it, love it, love it. Just that one little transition because it is a little jarring to go from pop rock Imagine Dragons to funeral.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, I will watch it. I don't know. I debated waiting till the end when it's all out and then just binging it. But I kind of want to talk about it with you, so maybe I'll just have to go for it. I don't know.
Here, I'll put it to you this way, Conlon. I
Yeah.
have watched season 2, part 1, since it came out twice.
That's
I have
crazy.
seen all 3 episodes twice since it came out on Saturday. Today is Monday, listeners. It came out on Saturday. In 72 hours, I have watched all 3 episodes 3 times. Not 3 times, 2 times. Uh, it's very, very, very good. They're doing a great job with it so far. Still lots to know. Does not lock it in. I was thinking about it earlier. As of right now, it does not raise or lower it on my all-time list as of
Okay.
yet. But I think moving up will be very, very hard. Moving down a little bit easier if it kind of falls apart. Like I said, if they start introducing 100 characters to be on screen, that might drop it down. But I do
The
think
f-
that more characters are coming.
the fact that they did these first 3 episodes as well, like, I think the season probably wouldn't be great if the first 3 episodes weren't great. Like, I think I was gonna set the tone for whether this was a very well thought out, we had this planned, this is what we're doing, we want the same quality as the first season, or, this first half was kind of our good half, and we're gonna close it out with this. I think the fact that these 3 first episodes were this good, it's probably gonna be great,
I I
honestly.
I hope so. I really, really hope so. But like, we're not gonna know until we know. How many shows do we know that have half seasons that are good?
That's true, and it could be great
Star
until the
Wars
last
Rebels was
episode,
on both
and
of our top
the last
lists, and
episode
I
sucks.
yeah. Um, so we're gonna see. I'm really trying to manage my expectations and my hope. It could go on a lot of different directions. It can do a whole lot of different things. I don't want to overhype it to you, so you go into season 2 expecting absolute perfection. I definitely don't want people to do that. I'm just trying to say I've really been enjoying it so far. And if it stays as good as it is, has a chance to take my number 2 or even my number 1 spot on my top 10 of all time list.
It could eat How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've
Wow.
been thinking about it a lot since we recorded that episode. I love How I Met Your Mother, absolutely. But when I was talking to you about holding it down because it's only 1 season so far isn't really fair because we have to judge it on what it is and not how long it is. I think on an objective grading scale, right? You look at visuals, you look at storytelling, you look at number of interesting characters, you look at ups and downs of the show. Objectively, Arcane is on top of pretty much anything. And then it just boils down to, personal preference uh, and connection to a show outside of the show. You know, How Much Mother, I don't think it will take that spot. But man, if they really nail the ending, who am I to say that this objectively better show and show that played a big part of my life more recently is it number what? Like, it's gonna be a
Good point,
tough
man.
argument to have, but
That's a good
it's
point.
I have been enjoying it. I did watch the first 3 episodes twice already.
I'll
It's
probably watch
so,
them a third time
so
before
good.
the next drop.
I don't know about that. I think, I will probably be busy with other pieces of media. I've got Doom Eternal I wanna put some time into. I've got my books to catch up on because I haven't been because of Epic. You'll notice none of my stuff is books because since we started doing our records and I started making this list of things I wanted to talk about, I didn't listen to any books because I was listening to Epic the Musical. So I don't have any books to talk about. I want to catch up on my podcasts. I'm way behind season 3 on Dungeons of Daddies.
It's really good.
Way behind. Uh, Way behind on my Revolutions podcast. Way behind on my Formula One podcast. Like, with the move for me, with readjusting to things, with having a difference in the amount of time I can spend on those things. Plus, like, I've been watching The Office, the Superfan episodes, just kind of in the background when I'm doing other things. I don't know if I will take the time to watch Arcane Season 2, Part 1 a third time before Saturday. I'm also playing Astrobot. I'm playing College Football 25. I just beat Doom. Like,
Got a lot
there's a
going
lot
on.
of things. A lot of things. A lot of entertainment. A lot of time. A lot of time.
Cool, man.
What do you have
Oh,
coming up this next week?
I'm gonna watch some more One Tree Hill because I'm watching it with my wife. I want to start playing Death Stranding. I want to give it a try. See what I think. Gonna play some more Frostpunk because I kind of just dropped off of it, but I did like it, so I don't know why I dropped off. And then
You're
Arcane.
talking Frostpunk 2, right?
Yeah. Which so far I don't like it as much as I like the first one. I think it's kind of missing some of the humanity, but I still like the game and I want to play through it.
Yes. Fair enough.
And
And so
then
you are gonna watch Arcane? You're gonna
yeah,
subscribe to the Netflix? You're
yeah.
gonna you're gonna
I
watch the
think it's
Arcane?
crazy that I haven't because honestly, Arcane season 2 is the show that I've been most excited for like 2 years at this point. Um, and the fact that I'm not watching it when it's coming out is kind of crazy. Just is.
It is
I keep
a
telling
different
people it's
experience.
best show that's come out in a decade. And people who know me and I've given them recommendations and been like, that guy knows good television. I'm like, this is the best show that's come out in a decade. You have to watch this show. And anybody that's watched it's loved it because it's great.
It is.
No reason
Truly,
I shouldn't
truly
watch it.
is great. Yep.
Yeah, it's objectively good. Just, it's just good.
For
Even if
sure.
it's not your favorite show of all time, it's just good.
Agreed.
Anyway, I
Anything
think that
else?
was our episode of On-Screen Off-Screen. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, comment. What are some things you're playing? What are some things you're watching? If you've seen Arcane, what do you think about it? And is my pick for Batman or Josh's pick for Batman better?
Mine's actually happening, so it's obviously my pick.
When mine happens, we're gonna
If
see which one's better, and
if yours
I
happens.
hope it happens. I probably won't, but I hope it happens.
Not going to.
Yeah, no. Yeah, hey, see you guys.
Bye.